Hey everybody, welcome to Mental Health Heroes Play Dungeons and Dragons. My name is Jeremy Allen. I'll be the dungeon master of this fantastic campaign. At least I think it's a fantastic campaign since I made it. But with me is Nexadon, or as we affectionately know him as Dave. Um, so what we decided to do before you start watching this is that you're going to be right in the middle of a situation with these characters. So to give you a little bit of background that leads up to where they're at, I'm going to give you kind of like an episode zero with this video. So to start off, the name of the campaign setting is called Valorum. That's the name of the world that everybody lives on. There's 5 continents on Valorum, and they're all. This story takes place in a continent called Kull. It's the largest continent in the world. Um, a lot of bad things have happened on the continent of Kull. Everything from magical mishaps to a large meteor or comet type entity crashing into the world and creating an inland sea. Um, there are orc tribes and orc war bands and evil wizards, and everything that you would hope for in a fantasy setting is here. We do run it a little. It's a little on the dark side as far as the content, and what I mean by that, there's a lot of bad guys that do bad things. But that's what makes the heroes in the campaign more heroic. Um, and they usually have to have pretty tough choices they have to make um, to be able to survive and do what they need to do. So, to get started, we're just going to start. I'm not going to give you too much of the world history because a lot of that stuff is discovered as these players go on. There's a lot of lore to be uncovered here. I've been working on this campaign setting since I was 13, and I'm 44 now, so do the math.
31.
So these characters, which I'll do a brief description of each character. You've got Ward, who plays an Ash Elf druid. Now, an Ash Elf is a elf whose race in the past has done some things that caused a cataclysm, and they're shunned by everyone else. And the Ash Elf is actually a derogatory term when it comes to that race in particular. But they have pale gray or light blue skin with often really colorful hair. And they also enjoy being with humans because beside the other elves, they have a better understanding of what mortality means. Most of the race has died off. There's very few Ash Elves left. And they enjoy spending time with humans because humans know they have a short time and they accomplish a lot with the short time that they have. And so they enjoy that gusto that humans live life with. So you'll find them either called Ash Elves or City Elves, but their true name is called the Alinari. Um, so he's playing a character who doesn't know much about his own past because he was an orphan. And that character is played by Jonathan Grizel. Um, it should be fun to watch him develop. The next character I'm going to talk about is a human barbarian named Drekken. He's played by a player named Logan Sisson. You'll find that he's aggressive in the way that he plays, like barbarians should be. You'll also find that he's a very high roller, and so I have to come up with ways to defeat that. So you'll enjoy watching him develop his characters because he has a hatred for an orc leader who scalped him. So that should go well. The next character I'm going to talk about is a goblin cleric, a knowledge cleric. His name is Itchy Brownbottom of the Brownbottom clan. He's played by Shadwick Jones, and you'll come to find that both Itchy and Shadwick are very ingenious players. They like to do creative things with mundane objects. It's pretty fantastic to watch them work. Um, the next player after that is Johnny Phillips, and he plays uh, Slade Carter, the gunslinger, the human gunslinger, who spent a lot of times with the gnomes of the north, who are really into clockwork items and things of that nature. They actually created the only firearms in the entire world, and they have a secret formula that they've only shared with Slade. He's the only person that's not a gnome that knows the formula. Um, and where he's been brought down to is to meet these other characters, and I'll get into that in a moment. It's going to be fun watching him develop because he comes from a very wealthy family, and he's kind of just been shunned by them a little bit. And then I believe finally we come to Nexadon's character or Dave's character. His name is Greg. What's his last name?
Vazaroth.
Tell the people a little bit about old Greg.
I'm a fighter, and I'm a bugbear, chaotic neutral. I don't care about anything but ward and or helping innocent people. I don't mind torturing evil people or killing them or any of that stuff. But mainly, I'm just here to help Ward out because he took me in when I was cast out, and he found me almost dead and healed me and kept me safe. So he's got my undying loyalty.
Very good. So a brief recap of what's happened to these characters. Uh, Ward was raised in a draconic monastery by the followers of Bahamut. It's a hidden monastery, and they gave him a plot of land that he created, what he calls his secret veil, and that's where he and Greg spent most of their time. And he developed his druid skills there, working with druid crafting and discovering nature. So they spent a lot of time there. They also adopted Itchy because Itchy was also an orphan, and he actually got his knowledge and his abilities from the monastery. However, he did not follow in the footsteps of Bahamut. He actually followed in the footsteps of Denir, the god of writing. Um, they were actually greeted by the barbarian who had wandered into a village that was ravaged by a disease, and they asked him to go seek aid from these dragonborn in the monastery. He found Ward in this motley group instead, and together they made their way towards this village, which they found was ravaged by the disease that was turning people into scorpion-like monstrosities. Um, After burning down a whole building full of diseased villagers, they discovered patient Zero, which was a little girl named Margaret, and she was laying at the mouth of a cave. Um, they found her and nursed her back to health, um, but they did notice that she was still a carrier of this infectious disease. But through the process of finding out that she had gotten it while she had wandering into this cave that they found her at, they discovered that it was created by a wizard that was going by the name of the Master. They found out that the Master guy was befriended with or subjugated a young black dragon. After a pretty quick combat where they prevailed easily with his minions, uh, he actually fled the area, and Ward had a quick conversation with the black dragon, unbeknownst to the others, uh, and they decided to take Margaret towards Nine Towers, which is regarded as a place of learning and healing, and they could get the help that they needed from the wizards there. The Nine Towers was so dubbed because of the nine towers, the nine wizard towers that border the entire massive city. The walls are connected around the towers, and each one of those towers is a member of the council, owns one of those towers. So as they made their way towards Nine Towers, they were kind of caught up in the wake of an orcish army that was traveling towards the west, and they got into a scuffle with these orcs, just a little outset of them, and discovered that they were scuffling with the actual war chief who was commanding this army, and he proceeded to slay both Greg and Drekken. But thanks to Itchy's crafty thinking and quick reactions, he was able to save both their lives. Unfortunately for Drekken, though, he was scalped, and now he wears a warg skin head piece instead of hair, because if he takes that off, all you can see is scarred skin and exposed skull. It's pretty gross. Um, After that, they again faced a little bit of combat in an abandoned town where, and it was the best intentions that Greg had. He saw a building. He thought there was a roof on the building. There was only a little bit of roof because the town had kind of been dilapidated. And he threw Margaret into the air, hoping she would land safely on the roof, but instead she crashed through it and landed on the ground and became unconscious. He's felt poorly ever since that happened, but they were able to defeat their foes pretty handily and take the young girl and stabilize her. And then they finally completed their journey to Nine Towers, where she was immediately taken in by a medical practitioner who just goes by the name of Doc right now. He's a little surly, and but he's got a good heart. So he has taken Margaret in and has kept Greg apprised of her status, and she is stabilized. They're working with clerics to try to rid her of this disease, of being a carrier of this disease, and that's the last that we know of Margaret as of this moment. While they're going to the local inn or tavern to get rest before they could see the council, because even though they told the guard that there was an orcish warband heading this way, the guard seemed not alarmed, but said he would inform the council that they were coming. A little taken aback by that, they decided to find a place where they could stay and rest, and they found a place called the Mage's Rest. And while there, they were approached by a half-elven woman of the Earth Elves, which are a kind-hearted and very trade skill-oriented race of elves that intermingle with humans easily, where the other races do not. And she asked them to, after overhearing that they were going to see the council the following day, she asked them if they wouldn't mind speaking on her behalf for her son Jin, who had gone missing. She had been waiting for a council meeting for 2 weeks and was getting the runaround from the council and the council advisors and things of that nature. And so she asked them to speak on her behalf for her missing son. And Ward, being the kind-hearted person that he is, agreed to the task that she set before him, little knowing what it would actually lead to, or completely knowing what it would lead to, because he knows me. So, after a brief conversation with a couple of interesting half-elves who donned gray cloaks and with dragon clasps that clasped the gray cloaks, a couple of bards, or bardic-like people, they discovered that Jin is not the only child that was missing. There were several students who had gone missing, and asked if they wouldn't mind keeping them abreast of any information they got. So the following morning, and this is where they met Slade, and Slade was there to give a demonstration of the firepower that the gnomes had created, because Nine Towers paid the gnomes 1,000 gold for the formula to make the gunpowder. The gnomes failed to tell Slade that was what he was actually, the letter was sent down there to do, which was to, in the letter it said, "We will gladly pay you 1,000 gold for the formula to create the explosion powder that they use in their firearms." They held on to it for 5 years, but they took 1,000 gold with no problem.
They're gnomes.
So they're gnomes. So they told Slade before he came, under no circumstances was he to share the formula with the wizards. They guard their secrets very, very closely, do the gnomes. So Slade then was under the understanding that he was just going to give a demonstration of the power that the gnomes had created. But once the council meeting started and everyone was involved, it was discovered that that was not what they wanted, and they paid 1,000 gold for the formula. However, since they didn't really need the 1,000 gold, they wanted him to pay them back in tasks to be performed for them. And the first task, after discussing with the rest of the group, including Greg and Ward and Drekken and Itchy, was to, if they're so interested in finding these missing children, that they go and search underneath the area where they actually put them. So what they decided to tell them is that once a student or a wizard reaches too far, grasps for power that they don't have, they become cursed, and especially if there's a mishap. And when they begin to become cursed, they have no choice but to store them away, I guess is the right terminology. And they told them that it was underneath the statue of Agma in the center of the quad of the university there, the academy that they run. Speaking of which, backtrack a little bit. In the center of town is the Arcadium Acadium, which is a school that people send magically gifted or want to learn how to cast magic to learn, and they go there to learn the different schools of magic and the different traits that they're talented at. Some people, the magic happens to them naturally, like sorcerers, or they learn through their music or their charisma, like bards. Others, it takes them a long time to learn. It takes them a long time to study and to grasp the knowledge of magic. Well, they teach all of that there. They also have a special division called the War Mages, and countries will send specifically magically talented people to the school to be trained to be a war mage so they can then come back and be war mages in their armies. Um, so back to this. One thing that did bother them, Itchy noticed his ability to read lips after they were informed that there was an orc band, war band outside, that the head, his name was Denon, the head of the council at this point in time, uh, told the guards to seal the gates. They didn't want the refugees coming inside the gates, which perturbed Itchy quite a bit. But after all that was settled, and they agreed that Slade and this group would go and try to rescue this poor kid Jen, they went to the center of this fountain and they pushed it open, and then they crawled down into it, and much to their chagrin, it was closed behind them. But they continued to press forward, coming across rust monsters that they defeated quite easily, and then through the combat with rust monsters, they unleashed a horde of skeletons that were lying not necessarily in wait, but inert in various buildings and stuff in this gigantic underground city. All right, so I almost gave away the entire stream of what we did today, but uh, so after they come down and they fight some skeletons and rust monsters, and that's where we're going to pick up on these videos. And the first one is called Into the Unknown. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like the players like I do, and you enjoy the story that I'm telling. It's a little convoluted right now, but it'll come together. It always does. Um, if you like these videos, please like and subscribe and hit that little bell for notifications. And just a reminder that we will be opening up a second channel where Nexadon and I will be playing some games, some video games. And then if there's any tabletop games that we want to play other than Dungeons and Dragons, it'll be on that channel. We're going to be doing some
Left 4 Dead.
we're playing some Left 4 Dead. We'll be doing a couple of the other people that I know that are dungeon masters and world builders. We'll be doing little, not necessarily how-to videos, but advice videos, things that we ran into while we were world creating, problems that we found, and maybe help new dungeon masters with that. Some advice like that, and also we'll be having some interviews with some of my players about what makes them. What do they look at when they're making a character? What kind of things drives them to make a character
Power. Sorry.
a certain way? But like I said, if you like these videos, like and subscribe on that channel as well. Nexadon should have the links in the descriptions below. But like I said, my name is Jeremy, and I'm the Dungeon Master for these knuckleheads. And I hope you have a good time, and I look forward to telling more stories for you.
And they're really good stories. A lot of fun.
Remember, we're all in this together. So look at your neighbor, realize they could be going through something that you don't know they're going through, and try to look for a little bit of kindness, even if they're being jerks. But take care of each other. You only got one life to live, man. But take it easy.
Until next time.